All right, so if you look at the big picture, a lot of you are using reports, using data as a currency, or trying to get information about the data. So what IQMS decided to do was convert that knowledge, their knowledge of how the data is running through the pipes, and their knowledge of how the customers use this data, to tell a story in a slightly better way and offer it as a cloud solution, so that it minimizes the cost of managing the software on-premise, removes the cost of having people, material, software sitting on your shop floor, and then forcing you to do something else, which is data management and analyst type of work compared to what you do best, which is your core business, right? So having it in the cloud and offering it as a service, we have seen in the industry today that it's a huge value to everybody. It's lower cost, better access, less management, less labor, right? So with that in mind, this picture is a little lopsided, so the cloud should have been on the top, but let's walk down from top down. The green boxes represent your shop floor database on the very top. That's your Enterprise IQ database, customer A, B, and so on. What we are standing up here is a BI cloud service for each customer. This is essentially a cloud service that runs all the business intelligence processing, and it's got the semantics layer that does a lot of the data model. And that is backed by a data mart, or a data warehouse, that has sort of a rolled up data of your transactional information sitting in Enterprise IQ. Now, we use another service called ODI Cloud Service, that stands for Oracle Data Integrator. It's essentially a data integration tool that you get in the market. There are many flavors of this product. Many companies have a similar type of product. ODI really essentially is used when you want to send data in like a trickle feed once a day or twice a day, but you want to not only move the data, but you want to also massage it, transform it, run formulas, expressions, change the data in flight as it's coming from your source to target. So we're using the ODI Cloud Service to do that. So if you look at this, if you take one vertical slice of this cake, this represents one customer. It represents like one instance for you. So each of you will have, for every Enterprise IQ shop floor database, you'll have an ODI Cloud Service that will funnel the data out, send it to the back-end data mart that will provide the data for the BI Cloud Service. Now we had some discussions this morning where there were some customers who wanted access, who wanted to be not just mere consumers of these dashboards and reports. They wanted to also have the ability to go in and make some changes, add their own kinds of reports. Yep. Oh, sorry.
Also maybe have access to the ODI cloud service, that's where the ETL takes place?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and that's a conversation that we should be having. We're going to be funneling up all these requests through Rob, and we'll have IQMS drive that conversation. Oracle, we are just the enabler, the technology enabler. But in terms of how you want to operationalize it, how you want to access it, we should have a discussion together, because, here's the reason why. One class of customers are basically consumers. These are people who want to just get reports and dashboards out there in the cloud. You just go into your portal, log in, and bang, you see the latest variance report for today. It's so easy, so simple, right? And there may be a certain class of users in your company who may be like power users, who want to go in and change the report, add a new report, or change the way the data is being represented. Now the magic sauce, the real juice, that the value that IQMS is offering you as a solution is in two places. It's the data mart, which is a unique structure, a representation of how that Enterprise IQ data should be presented to you as a data mart, as a data warehouse. That this takes, the bulk of the work is in this place. This takes about a few months to build it out right, because that's a unique structure that only IQMS knows how the data should be represented. And then the second aspect of it is, the second part of the solution is the semantic layer here, in terms of how the raw tables, how should this be shown to you that you can run reports and dashboards. So these are the two things and of course the visualization, the report. So this is essentially the magic sauce that IQMS is giving to you because that's the value to the end customer, right? Now, there are scenarios where you may want to modify that and go off that main solution, but it comes with certain pros and cons, right, in terms of how much you want to modify. So modifying the underlying data structure may not be the best way to do it because that's the foundation. You don't want to touch it because when you start touching it, that's a slippery slope. You're changing the foundation of the solution. But if you want to just change how the report looks like, change the color, change how the graph looks like, that's not a big problem. If you want to change how the semantic layer looks, like if you want to change how the tables are being presented to you, the business layer, that's again another problem, but I would recommend identify certain power users in your company who you think are the right people to do that. And there's another scenario where some customers, you may have a multi-site installation of Enterprise IQ. You may want to bring data from other places. We could include that in our solution. We could have IQMS help you figure out how you implement that. In some cases, we had some customers in the morning session who wanted to bring in data from other applications, nothing to do with Enterprise IQ, like HR data or payroll, and combine that with your Enterprise IQ data. So in that scenario, that is almost like it's like an outlier. It's a customization, which either you could do that or have IQMS do that for you as a part of professional services. So let me stop there for a second. So I just wanted to give you the big picture, and then we can get into the content. Any questions?
How many different subject areas have you worked on already?
Yeah, just manufacturing and financials so far.
We're starting financials now.
Okay, so we can always come back and we can have a show of hands in terms of how many of you would like to have a certain subset of power users. How many of you would like to have a situation where you're going to bring in data from other Enterprise IQ systems or even other databases completely different? So we could have a show of hands either now or we could do that later.
We'd want to bring in other data.
Yeah.
You do?
I'd want both of those things.
Okay. And would that data be completely different applications or would it be Enterprise IQ, a different site in a multi-site situation?
Different data.
Different reporting data.
Okay. Okay.
Sure. Here comes it.
Here's the party time. All right.
Okay, so for those of you who just came in just now, I was just presenting a big picture of the layout of the solution, where the BI solution is located in the cloud. And the green boxes represent your shop floor data. And Data Mart is sitting in the cloud, providing data for the BI service. We're going to change tracks now and switch over to the content that was built for you, so financials and manufacturing reports. And again, feel free to raise your hand to let us know, like, is the content right for you? Do you want to add more stuff, or you want this to be presented to you in a slightly different way because you run these calculations in a different way? Because we'd like to feed all that back into IQMS, and they can, because this is the first release of the software, they can feed that into roll it out into a broader set of customers, right?
Hello everyone, my name is Imtiaz Hindi, especially people who just joined us. Essentially what you saw yesterday, what Rob showed you, I'm just going to take the same sort of screens, just kind of like go over one more time to see if you have any follow-up questions on that. But more importantly, we want to have this session more interactive. So we want you guys to sort of provide us your feedback, what you saw yesterday. What are the things that you would also like to include even in the manufacturing solution? And we will be working on the financial analytics. So we are looking for volunteers. So somebody, controllers, financial analysts, to be able to participate in this requirement gathering session to be able to help us sort of develop a solution that is more close to you guys. Everybody knows financial statement, balance sheet, income statements, consolidation, and some of the other areas that you guys are working on to see if we can incorporate those ideas into the solution. So again, feel free to interrupt. You guys have seen this. I don't want to sort of bore you again with the same slides. The data that you're going to be looking at is all coming out of the test database. So when you see 124% performance, it's not right. So
We're just high performance.
unless you're running some super fast machines.
We don't make any scrap. We never reject.
Yes.
We just know exactly
Everything
what
ships on time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you gonna kind of walk through like dashboard by dashboard, or how do people you think
Well,
about this?
well, in the morning, the session that when I started with like, okay, general idea about, how people, like what's your current knowledge of business intelligence? Just to go over, like get a flavor of like, what kind of crowd we have, and then build upon it. Essentially what Anand mentioned that I'm just going to sort of further echo. We have IQMS data source, you have other data sources available, and you want to just bring those data out, transform it, massage it, whatever the language that we want to use, cleanse it, summarize it, and then put it out on the cloud for people to use it. So it's just that, and then we have the different granularity of the data. We're looking at some at a high level, just for example, scrap percentage, scrap of this. Then you go into the detail side of it as well. So anything that you saw yesterday that you were curious or like not sure what you saw or you want to know anything about it? Okay.
And after he walks you through the content, I will have a quick demo of the product itself. So you
Yeah.
get a feel for what does the average consumer, what does that person sees versus the power user, what does the power user see?
Yeah.
Get access to.
So Anand will take you over like a behind-the-scene administration module as well, like where you assigned super users, roles, and also an overview of like the product functionality in terms of how you can create these some of the visualizations. So essentially we have the solution is essentially divided into two areas. One is more like visualizations. And the other one is dashboard. Like Rob said yesterday, with the visualization, you get a snapshot of activity, you can drill down, but you wouldn't be able to drill through to the other activity. Let's say if you want to drill down to the details of it, you would not have been able to, at least in this current release. And Oracle may be able to sort of...
The idea is, in visualizations, think of an analogy like Google, right? Visualizations is when you don't know what questions to ask, you're exploring the data. You want to just throw in a bunch of assembly line information and look for those outliers so you can explore and find out why is this happening at certain months of the year or certain days of the week and not at other times. So we try to ask questions that we never usually would ask. But once you do that, that's the visualizations piece. I'm going to walk you through that. But once you know what those questions are, then you access these standard reports and dashboards, and they tell you a story as to why something is happening. But you already know the questions you want to ask. That's the difference. That's the knowledge.
And
Between visualization and dashboards.
yeah, so far we have about like 7-8 different dimensions and about 7-8 more fact tables related. Some of them are more you guys will be familiar with. Some of them are related to financial side, so I'm going to just go over some, on those ones. So we would start with visualization first. This is
So this is
product.
the page you land when you land, when you're a
Yeah.
consumer, you log in with your authentication username and password. This is where you land.
Yeah, and it's going to have your company logo, and you can also customize it if you like. It's fairly easily customizable pages. So you just, let's say start with, Rob, you built this yesterday in about 5 minutes. This additional 2 lines, we want to,
Just a link. Let's pull the company name in from the EIQ database.
yeah. So these, on the left-hand side, you have this shopping aisle, which is like IQMS BI. That's the metadata that we were talking about, something that, you can shop from. This still needs some work, that, more like making it more English version. But there's a lot of good, useful data available for us to
But the average
shop from.
consumer wouldn't even see that. You don't
Yeah.
need to worry yourself with that. You just consume the data. It's already been created for you in terms of visualizations.
Yeah,
But if you have a power user in a company, then that person can be set up access to do extra stuff.
yeah.
Can you open up one of those, like custom?
Yeah, does it actually show the tables? That's what I'm,
It'll be the objects in there.
yeah. I would
Now,
like
can you
to-
right-click on one of those and it'll give you the source table and field? Or
No, this is metadata you're looking at. At this stage, you're completely out of the IQMS world.
Totally abstract.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the business layer of the BI stack.
So you could have this customer fact table here, you could be loading them from 2 totally different independent sources.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Do we have access to build those diffs? So you said you built customers from 2 different tables.
No, you could here. You could, in this fact table, customer, drop that one down again. These are the field names of customer, it's a
Right.
fact table.
Right.
It's coming from EIQ, but I'm saying, because it's abstract in the database, it's not field names, it's not directly mapped to. a
Right,
field
so if
name.
I wanted to
You
bring
could
in
load
user-defined tables and merge them with customer, can I do that, or are we locked out?
No, you're not locked out, so you can answer that better. There's good ways to do this and not to do this.
Okay.
There are ways to do that in the tool, and if this is going to be permanent, you can have feed it into the underlying data stream, make that permanent, so that data always flowing in. So it's about changing it at the semantic layer or changing it at the foundation, the data pipes.
Right.
You
So
can
what-
choose where you want to do that.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that the ones that we deliver stay intact.
Right.
We're gonna push out a new set in the cloud.
It's
We're
going
not
to
gonna run
override
it, yeah.
whatever's there.
So there's different ways to do it.
And in my session, I'll walk you through where should you be changing so that you don't get refreshed, written over by.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
but
These
any-
are just all the dimensions of customer.
yes, yeah, and this is what we have done based on the KPIs that we delivered so far. So as we move into the other areas like sales, there may be some more metadata columns added at the bottom. So it's still like, you may end up right now, you're looking at maybe 100 now, maybe it'll end up more.
So this is the visualization screen. This is the other aspect of the BI tool. There's this aspect, and then there's the dashboards and reports. So in this aspect, the idea is that you want to get the big picture fast. So when you want to tell it, you want to have it tell you a story quickly at a high level, and with the ability to have with some ability to drill down. But the real information is on the other side of the onion, which is the dashboards and reports, where you drill down and you start figuring out, okay, what happened, why did it really happen?
Yeah.
So that's a true BI analysis.
But some of this is drillable as well, I think you showed.
Yeah, well, when you click on one of these charts, so everything what you see on the screen will change based on the context. So if you click on it, so you see it shows you all these relevant areas from the other tab.
First tab, the production one, those are, the first tab on the canvas down the
On
bottom.
the bottom left,
Those ones are, when you change something, they refresh.
Yeah.
It's more visual, is what I'm saying. Yeah, so you can draw, so that one measures by month and year, so you can draw that into day, and then everything will change to a daily basis.
Yep, So I think this is running for
Not
day.
even there, just drill in one of the boxes, just there, click. Everything changes. Did you click? Yeah, maybe not. So click on one of the bar charts below, nothing in here yet. And you right click in there, right click,
Yeah,
and then say drill to date. Right, now everything changed, so all 6 of them, or 5 of them, have changed to a date view, see?
Oh, yeah.
Just to kind of explain how the drill downs work.
so think of it as like, if you have the CFO visualization, so you create one for CFO, one for general manager, production, very, very focused, key indicators that one individual need, put them in there and then let him sort of, him or her play around with it, with the filters. And they're all like interconnected with each other, so selecting one area from one would impact the others. Okay?
Yeah, so it might look funny at the date level, but,
Yeah.
because the dimension's been defined, from year, month to date, you can look at it at any level, right?
Right.
Without, waiting for it to summarize or what he meant to recalculate.
And that's where you are really getting answers to questions that you never even thought of. You're just exploring data, trying to figure out. Then once you know that's an area that you want to focus on, you either drill down into that here, or you could go into dashboards and reports to get more details.
Toyota had it open over there.
Alrighty, so we have, we looked at the production, any question on, like, this is more like showing you the navigation side of it. Let's move on to the production side, production analytics. Again, so the landing page is summary, and then you just go from here and sort of, look for the question that you're looking for an answer for. So we have the summary, again, numbers are, 14,000 parts produced within this 2017 calendar year and September. So you can change your month. Let's say if we want to add August to it, and the numbers will change from 14 to 1 million. That's an amazing company. And we have, we have some of the weird, stupid numbers available for you. So this is like just going in, opening and looking at these numbers on a daily basis, and then, looking for more answers. So
Can you drill down on this or no?
That's how it's defined.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, but not on this, but we didn't define it here, but,
Okay.
yeah.
but you can,
This
you
was just
can,
meant to be the summary, kind of landing page.
So you go to the different tabs?
We'd like
yeah,
to see
you can go to the
feedback.
different apps.
Absolutely,
Sweet, because I definitely have something we'd like to see.
absolutely.
You just scroll down to the rest of the content. So there's, each of those boxes represent the data at the bottom.
So on the same kind of like dashboard or canvas, you have your charts, graphs, the high level KPIs like in your face, and then you can you can also put some details, tabular data if you like. So with a different variety of details, you should be able to. You can also put additional filters, like work center, plants, etc., etc. So some of the information that is availability. It's quite useful when you pull your data and actually you see it yourself. It will make more sense than what we are showing you here. We have a nice data from customer, but we don't want to show.
Scroll up a little bit, because I'm just remembering now when he said that, scroll up there.
Yeah.
So that particular graph there, the OE by manufacturing type, at this particular beta, so we put this and pointed at, I don't know how big the data set was, but we loaded it in and we showed it to them, and the first they started making comments about, oh, why is that machine not, blah, blah. They were already looking at it and at their own data and asking
Yeah.
questions about, why is that one, showing like that? Right? It's pretty funny.
Okay, so essentially we have multiple tabs here. Summary, starting with summary, then we have a shipment status, rejects, and from the previous session there was one gentleman, what was his name? He said that they have their own definition of OE, so it's not like the one that you would see at industry standard. They have their own mix to it. So some of those things that came up during those calls. Scrap factor also, was one of them.
So when we get a tool like this in-house, the first thing the business is going to ask is, have you gone through and validated that all these calculations are correct? That if we start digging into the details or look at it, in the transactional system versus this one.
Right.
So one thing that's going to be really key right out of the gate is to have the appropriate level of metadata. Where are all those dimensions coming from?
Yep.
What are you doing through the ETL process? So the definitions of everything that happens in those ETLs and how your measure objects are defined. And I know we talked a little bit about it last night and you said, yeah, that all comes later, but no, that needs to come out with the initial version.
Yeah,
So that
all
we
the
can actually say with
documentation.
confidence to our business people, yes, I've gone through this, or when they're asking us questions about how is this calculated, or why is this different than what I'm seeing in the transactional system?
And how do you normally analyze that? Do you analyze it using documentation, or do you want to
Take a small subset,
small subset of data?
take one item number, and whether you're measuring
Yeah.
shipments or something, I'd actually go back to the transactional data,
Yeah.
calculate it myself. I'd use a few samples of each one of these, so that I can in honesty say to them, yeah, I dug in, I calculated this stuff, it is coming out
Yeah.
correctly.
That's-
I mean, I worked in data warehousing
Yeah.
for 14 years at GE Healthcare, and that's the first thing, you have to be able to prove out that data.
Yeah.
Because if all of a sudden you're running your business and something in 6 months, and then you find out there was a flaw in the ETL, like, oh my God, like, that's huge implications. Huge
So we've been
implications.
doing that we've been taking a customer's data set, we've been putting it in the cloud, so it's isolated. And then we have them run like one batch or one transaction, and we follow it all the way through to see how it shows up.
Okay.
So we've been doing it at a very,
Granular
micro
level.
level.
But we'll have to be able to do that
Yes.
too. And the only way we can do that is if we have all that metadata available to us.
So, yeah, so you just, upload everything on the cloud and then start looking at it. If the calculations are like off base or anything, then they get small
Well, that's
change.
one way to approach it, or the other way is to have the right documentation with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, well, that's
Should
part of it,
be
yeah.
delivered right out of the gate, not
Right.
as a afterthought.
Tell me the formulas.
Yeah, I need to
Um,
know,
um,
what are you doing? Are you rounding stuff in the ETL? Are you excluding things?
Yeah.
We need to understand what's going on.
Yeah. Which is why this is, limited release, because
Yes.
we just finished it. Like I said yesterday, we expanded the scope and added a couple things for some customers that were really struggling. And we're just now gonna kind of take a deep breath and do all the documentation, which we've started, but, that's still a week or two away. We haven't even done our internal readiness for support or professional services. I mean, they know this is coming and they're rattling here.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Support's going to need all that
Absolutely.
information as well. to
In all
troubleshoot.
departments, we have to know how to sell it, we have to know all these things, and
Right.
unfortunately, we planned to have everything done for this event here, but
Oh,
I
that's
added the
fine.
scope, and that's on
Sure.
me, but that is all, what our plans
Part of
are.
the package.
Okay, so moving on to the shipment status. So you guys have already seen the same, shipment data, the KPIs are your on-time delivery, the number of days late, different combinations, more like an aging report, but on the shipment side. And due to limited amount of data, I'm not seeing some charts activity here, but you can essentially, select individual customer, country, city, or state. And these, like all these filters, they are fairly easy to create. You can just simply go in the edit mode, you bring additional filters in, and then apply them as a prompt. Okay. Well, I don't know what I'm looking at. 100% rejects or 0% reject? Sweet.
Perfect.
Yeah. So you got year, month, item revision level, standard cost, standard price, parts plan, goods parts, reject quantity, reject percentage, and then dollars lost at cost. That is something I'm going to have to even ask myself with the developers and Olivia to find out what's in it.
Would there be a way to basically slice this out as to rejects by process? The manufacturing process, so for a whole month, all of this process, what was the scrap percentage or the reject percentage on those transactions? To us, that would be huge.
Yeah.
If you go down, if you go to the production analysis tab up there, I think some of that more is here maybe. So how do you define the process? Is that at the work center level? Or
It's the assembly process. The assembly, yeah,
Okay, if it's in the database somewhere, you get the fact table, make an invention and slice it.
yeah, so we'd
What's an
like to
example
know.
of an assembly
It
process?
is.
Yeah.
The way
so-
that it's written in the database, I don't know if it's in the data mart now, but
Mhm.
the way that it's written in the database, it could definitely get there.
Well, you're getting an SMDOK ID on TA labor.
Absolutely.
So aggregate all that data for a month for, here's every single manufacturing process we did in a month.
And break it out by region.
Yes. Show me a scrap percentage on that.
Yeah.
For your normal customers, you just want to know on your work center. For us, we got to know by process.
So can you say that again, what was the name of the report?
We want to know scrap percentage by process number. By assembly process number for a certain range of time. And then be able to slice and dice from there that, hey, here's the percentage of this, and then when you click on that, you know, the test and inspect process on this BOM, and then show the work orders for it at that period of time and the transactional detail behind it. That's something we get asked for from our production team a lot, and providing that data to them is difficult.
What is your company name?
LSI Solutions.
At the top line of all of these, can you sort by e-plant?
Oh, yes. You just add,
Go to the top, what's the filters to the left and the top?
you just add a new filter
It's
here.
easy to add here.
Yeah.
And that'd be something we could do on our own?
Yeah.
or-
It's literally 5-10 seconds to add it.
Okay.
And you could add that yourself.
So we could add any dimension that's in there?
You just define the data mark.
Yeah.
I mean, another way of like, creating a report and saving as in your own, my folder, so it stays with your MO file. We got downtime, again, detailed analysis of downtime. We have the production hours. So some of the, line level details for the production date and the activity work centers. Total downtime hours, up hours, production. So not really good data. Some of these things, and so that's your OEE. I'm just going to select it for the month of September because it likes it somehow. There. So we got more like a speedometer here representing the percentage, showing the percentage in efficiency size. So it's almost like 98%. That little needle is actually showing you that. We're still working with Oracle to somehow, sometimes it appears, sometimes it's not. So there's an open ticket for that. So there's your work center activities with the manufacturing pie, standard OEE and the actual. Embarrassing numbers, I don't know what to make of it, but standard availability is 100%, which is unusual. Someone said like 85% is the best availability you can get from machine, or what? So we have that. This is something new. This is essentially it's inventory snapshot, inventory level snapshot that gives you the on-hand quantities and the valuation by each item class. You can essentially run this job every hour if you like, but we have scheduled it for like almost like a daily basis, so you can go and pick up any quantity time snapshot of your inventory. You can take this information, I mean this is what we're showing you right now, the detailed data, but You can essentially take the same data and then just summarize into some sort of like charts if you need by item class or a finished good class so that you know where your inventory valuations are sitting as far as inventories goes. Okay? Any question? Robert, you covered everything yesterday, so there's not much to talk about here today. Yeah, so this is on the manufacturing side. Any question or comment or suggestion before we move on?
How do you control security if you have multiple users and things you want some people to see and not other people to see? Access to the data to power users as a manufacturer, you don't want them to see finance or vice versa. How do you control that?
You define that in role-based. There's a separate module that Anand is going to cover and show you.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So there's the next, because what VIX is not just presenting the data like for example Power BI. So it's just everybody gets everything. And for example in Power BI you can take the data and go home with the data. So unlike that, you have a platform, the full platform that allows simple like authentication, authorization, and role-based. You can I believe that you can apply at the individual visualization level as well.
Yeah, I was going to cover that, but really
Yep.
at high level, the different roles, one for just consumer, I just want to consume whatever is out there for dashboards at the lowest level, and then a couple of notches up, there's one more for power users, that's someone who needs to go in there and create their own reports or drag and drop their own combination of factor dimension tables, create joins. So they would be like power users. So you could choose, if you have 10 users subscribe to the service from IQMS, you could define, designate, a few of them are going to be power users and 7 of them are going to be normal consumers. So you could do that really easily. Beyond that, if there's a requirement that you want to have only some people do manufacturing reports but not financial or vice versa, that is something that you could feed it into the system, into the solution. That's something you could request back to IQMS, IQMS will set it up for you.
And you have tons of information available online, and also Oracle Education as well. I don't know, Rob, do we plan for any training side, as part of the
It's
rollout?
going to be mostly functional training,
Yeah.
user training.
Yeah. Okay.
You
Right,
don't
so,
have to, deal with all the plumbing and the privileges, that's something IQMS will set it up for you.
yeah.
This is a service, this is a cloud service, so you don't even have to worry about it. You just define what you need, and IQMS and us will set it up.
Are there certifications on this?
Yeah, so you mean the IQMS solution
Or actually on VIX?
on the product itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I'm going to walk you through that. There are product certifications available if you want to just learn the product. But there is a lot of stuff that IQMS has built on top. So if you want to look for that kind of training, IQMS will offer you that.
Sure.
But if you want to look at just the technology enabler training, then that's you don't want to do.
Okay.
But there are a ton of free training, there's YouTube videos, a lot of stuff out there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
But the idea here is this is a cloud service. A lot of the underlying plumbing and that's the mess is not really exposed to you. You don't want to be touching it. You just want to, because if you're going to start meddling around with that, you might as well have software on premise. Right? That's, when you end up owning it, you own the mess, you own the management of it. The whole idea is to move away from that type of activity, unless you really want to have more control.
I would think at a minimum, we'd want to be able to control it by the area. Like you can let people have access to manufacturing and certain people access to
That's role.
finance. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll add, we talked about adding the role space, right? We've already talked about this, we'll move out a little bit. That'll be the next thing that we'll add to this as we expand, is we will have several defined roles that you'll be able to secure that role. So manufacturing people can just look at that, financial people can look at that. Within the financial ones, maybe when you can look at this,
But is that very typical? Do most customers want to separate that?
If we're going to have a complete, end-to-end suite of KPIs across our entire product, because it covers many different, disciplines, so you don't want to open it wide open to everybody else. The product's not wide open like that.
Especially once you throw the finance.
Exactly,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
exactly.
That's a big game changer.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely,
access.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not a problem, we can control that by roles.
Yeah, it's very straightforward to do. We just have to define the roles and what we want to show, and as a template, so that's what we'll go with.
Okay, so anything else on manufacturing? We already lost one controller. Want to make sure that we get into the finance as well.
They said they had to do that too.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, if you have any other question on manufacturing, feel free to send an email to Rob, or Rob will pass it on to us, and we're more than happy to incorporate that into the solution. This is just the first cut. We're looking at improving a lot, so it's a work in process, always. Now, going into the finance side, does anyone have anything that they want to share that they do very uniquely, like reporting wise? They would like to have us look at it and see if we can incorporate that in.
One of the things I brought up in the last financial meeting was, one of my biggest concerns was when we are rolling the bill of materials, we kind of lose the background of what it was before.
Yeah.
So basically, they said could probably most likely be built in this. What I'm saying is if I decide that it takes one person to run this operations injection machine, we're now changing it to 2. I want to still be able to see that, or maybe we're removing clips out of our bill of materials and putting in another part, which is more expensive. I'd like to still be able to see that historical background of what the bill of materials was.
And the cost associated.
Yes, and the cost associated
Right,
with
so
it.
as of this date, everything costed here, once I rolled costs of this date,
Correct.
I can see it.
Well, I don't know how many of you are aware of it, we have a patch for that. We just did recently, this is all in conjunction with the 2016 release, but in the sort of, interim time, we have this, I'm gonna let Rob explain that. Yeah, here you go.
I can explain it.
Yeah, here, I was wondering, I need help.
So what we added, we actually added a piece of it, kind of behind the scenes in 15.4, the structure behind it, is the recipe card.
They did say that, but they said it would not give this detailed information, is what they said.
So the recipe card keeps what the cost was.
But it doesn't give you detail. Yes, it keeps the history, but I want to actually see the detail, just like it is broke down. So if it
Like
says
cost elements?
components, listing each component out. Okay, and if this, each component that's listed out underneath this, or if it's resins, and I decided my resin cost is $6, and my component is 50 cents, and this is this, and this is this. When I roll it the next time, I want to still be able to keep that history there and see the next history there.
And
that
then-
recipe card, they said would not do that.
At the cost element level or at the individual component? Because you might have 2 components. that are
Correct, I want to see the whole complete list
It's actually,
by component.
So by component, not by element.
No, not like a cost element.
yeah,
That's why
but,
they said that wouldn't work over there when I was asking when I sat in that meeting.
yeah. So if you look at the recipe card right now, it has all of that information. Whatever you see in BOM today is what you get. The only difference is that it creates a snapshot for you at some point in time when that recipe card is, so when you do the cost roll-up, it creates another version of BOM. So in between, if there are any changes, it will capture that. So it's,
Right, but I want to see the actual detail in behind that.
when you say,
So like exactly like the BOM and the cost, so if you go to a cost of BOM
yeah,
in IQMS
Yeah.
and you pull the cost of BOM format, it says here's your resin, here's your components, here's this, et cetera.
yeah,
Okay, it gives you your cost.
yeah.
Then it gives you your standard. If I roll that again, I want to still be able to see all that detail
And
underneath the
you are
thing.
able to see that in that recipe card.
No, that's what they said, no.
I'll have to check, I don't have the recipe card in front of me, but we are pulling
You
it.
you can't see it by, yes, you can see it by, okay, this is one big component.
Yeah.
But if I have 6 components, it's not gonna break that out.
No, what I think you're referring into is, multi-level BOM. So, so you're making one finished good that has one component that you're also producing in some other division, and that's sort of, going all the way. But when you're looking at the finished good level, you have about 5 other semi-finished goods that basically goes into that finished good. That's multi-layer or multi-tier, or that's slightly different than what we have. But if you're looking at current BOM and all the column, all the details or data set that you just mentioned, we do have them available, but they're not in a hierarchical form. So let's say if you wanted to go and see, okay, this is my finished good, that's my component, which is essentially not just a component, it's parent itself, and it goes on all the way down. That hierarchy is not there, but the individual sets of
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can see it by labor, you can see it by overhead.
We have
You can
everything,
see it
yeah.
by that, yes, but I want more detail than that.
Yeah,
I want to be able to see where the change actually took place. So if it's in my resin cost, and
Yeah.
if it's in 2 or 3 of my resin costs, I want to be able to see that change marker, and I want to be able to track it down.
right. And that's I agree on that.
Because I'm keeping a full-blown spreadsheet to track those modifications.
So what better place than your data mart to track
Yes,
those
yes. Mm-hmm.
over time, so you don't have to keep that in the transactional system?
So what we have is, what I call it like, we just need to define the nth level of details. And let's say if, you go all the way up to 10th level, and then you're never gonna have the 11th, we can design a solution that sort of, capture all these parent-child, and then just keeps it in one place for you. So if you are going in and looking at that particular data set for one, you'll be easily able to do that. But it's a good suggestion. We can take it as an enhancement, and it would be nice for.
Because I know for a lot of the financial department, you can change it, so say gas prices change, so that changes your cost of your resin.
Yes,
Okay, so like every 3 months, it seems like there's a change, that's how we change our standards. So as those change, sometimes you do get changes before the 3 month, because there's a huge
Yeah.
spike.
Yeah,
And it may be in the middle of the month, so you have half of your standard cost was at this
Yeah.
price, which is actually hitting your books. And the other half is hitting at this one, but when you go back to look at it, it's at the new standard cost. You never see that full tracking mechanism.
I can do that by the batch. Well, I can do that by inventory batch, and each parent item production and all the associated BOM items or substitute items. And even I can show you, even today, the substitute items, the item we used, item we did not use, so that these you have a proper projected variances and the asset account that needs to be hit. So we're doing that.
Yeah, no,
That's different than what she's talking
Yeah.
about. So Marcos,
That's-
I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick. I just asked him to walk over.
We need more people.
Marco's very familiar with what we're doing because he's the guy doing it. Recipe card. When you change you calculate cost and roll, we now have history of what that cost was, correct?
Correct.
Do we have it down to the cost element level? Do we have it down to the component level though, within that cost element?
In terms of identifying the name of the component?
Yes.
Let me double check on that because the idea,
Because see, I just asked Shelley this morning in
yeah,
that meeting, and he said no.
I know we get to the point where we are looking at the parts per of the component.
So therefore
We should
You should
be,
have it.
yeah, so let me double check with it because I'd be shocked if
we didn't.
we didn't.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
because we're taking a snapshot of what the BOM looked like at the time. And from there, we know.
But see, that was my question in there when I was asking Shelley when you were going over that, when he came over to talk to
But
me.
see, I called Marco,
Yeah.
not Shelley.
Once I get back to my laptop, I'll
Shelley
send
is
it
a
to you.
genius.
Yeah,
Well, the reason I was asking that is because I'm keeping, which was several of us in the room, which is why I asked the comment. A lot of us have to keep a manual spreadsheet saying, okay, I just changed this component from 25 cents and now it's going to 50 cents because I'm gonna lose that.
Right.
I can never But I asked, is there gonna be a report that's gonna give me that detailed history? I don't want it by cost element, I can get it by cost element today. And I can actually get the history today by cost element. If I, just by labor and overhead, and this is resin, but I wanna see the detail behind all of our raw materials.
You should have that now, and that's what I
Yeah.
thought based on, but
And that's in version 16, not the VI solution. Is that what you're saying? Or is it
that's
the VI
actually in
solution?
version, it's actually behind the scenes in version 15.4. I mean, the software doesn't do anything with it in
Yeah, but most of
15.4.
us can't get
But it's
15
there.
We were told.
And then it's full-fledged working in
In
version
16.
16.
Yeah, because like right now, like I was telling Shelley, I can run it right now and get my history.
Right.
I can run it right now and get my cost element history all day long. But for me to actually track it down to detail and see that my resin right now is 75 cents, it would jump up to $2, I have to keep a manual spreadsheet to see that.
Let me show you what we are looking at recipe.
If it's not, so let me back up 1 second. If it's not in the recipe card, if it's not there, it would be in the journal work file for that transaction for the cost and roll.
Yeah, so no matter what.
So no matter what,
we'll get that.
it will be there in version, well, depends on if we get to cost roll in version 16.
And see, we don't plan to change, so if I can't, I'm not planning on changing. So,
Well, I can't get the functionality until.
and can I get it from here?
Well,
With the patch,
possibly with historical, we know your historical change. So we have that data in the system as far as what the cost was and what it is now on any component. The hard part, the way the data is stored now, is then pushing that out to what bonds
Exactly.
additional
I
effect.
understood that, that's why we start keeping the spreadsheet.
So we have the data in the system, so could we get to it from here? It
Uh-huh.
would just be probably a lot more difficult.
Okay.
The changes that are coming in 16/16.1, depending on what transactions, this is the whole, what we're talking about now is the PIT rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
So with those changes, that journal work file is going to have all those details in them on the component level. So you'll be able to see all of that regardless.
Gotcha.
okay. So this is some of the information that you were asking for. You got the transaction date. This is a view from the transaction log perspective. Okay, think about it. You got the batch, you got sub-batch, including transaction type. You're looking for element types, work order, parent item. Moving on to the parent quantities, child description, and this is the source. Some of the things that, exceptions that you do deal with. We got the source element coming in. Yeah, this item or this component is coming in from BOM. This is in the BOM, but we didn't use it. This is the one that we use, but it is not in the BOM substitute. And we're moving on and actually providing you the, what I call it, qualified or expected GL account that needs to get hit by some of these balances. So I'm just gonna. So there you go. So we going to the IQMS and we're coming back with the GL account based on the hierarchy. So if it's a manufactured items, I believe we are using first level is item master. If it's not in item master, we go to the group ID. If it's not in group ID, then we go to the IQSys, which is the system level. And then for the purchase item, we go into the cost element side of it. So we're capturing both, the one we didn't use, the one that we did use. So it's taken care of there. But I still kind of like have some more detailed discussion with you, maybe we can do that offline.
Okay.
To kind of really understand in terms of when you say, I think I took it in a way that maybe you're talking about multi-level BOM where you're actually producing component that goes into finished goods, that goes into further finished goods. That makes it a little bit tricky. We can talk about that later. So this is the report that we have, what I call it, goes with the recipe. So if you apply that recipe patch and you have something like that, that should allow you or save some time to do the GL reconciliation. Okay, and then the financial analytics, by the way, this is all work in process. We have not even started working on financial analytics until today. This is something that more like came out of the firefighting, working with some issues. So like we have something like inventory to GL comparison. So, this is my transaction log ID, so transaction type, transaction log activity, and then the relevant GL values and then differences.
And that's drillable?
Yes, they are drillable. So now it should give you the GL, all the GL batch activity for that account, if it ever comes back. No? Let me see if it does. But it is drillable.
So we can even do that on a particular day, not just the month.
Correct. You can go all the way. But when we, in a current state of the nation, it's going to be very difficult to match with the GL. You all know that. That's why we have the 2016 coming up. But on the transaction side, we know for the PIT transaction now that which GL account that we should be hitting. So we have all the asset side disposition, all the disposition in and out. We have the overhead, we have the labor, both overhead variable and fixed, everything. So, this is another example of inventory transaction. There's a stark difference between what we put together in a manufacturing analytics versus this. That these are all numbers, because we haven't even started working on any visualization for finance. So this is just like raw data, some of the reports that we put together for reconciliation. So we're looking at inventory transactions that are affecting the asset accounts, something that people were interested in. So we put together this report. It's famous with the bean counters. You got the inventory valuation side. This report is essentially a mimic version of what you saw on the inventory side. I'm not going to show that. This is the variance visibility report. You've already seen it. So variance asset and now the absorption. So you're looking at the asset account by item number. So by asset account, by item number, and you have the total amount in any given particular day, month, year. And I think it should show you all these sub-assemblies as well. Like if you scroll down and if you select certain account types, or you can even select any particular account if you like.
You can print all of this in Excel or any other format.
It's a
We're
fairly...
coming up for a break, I guess. We'll do a quick break. It's just a good time.
Yes, we are only been here for 1 hour. We have a 3-hour session, so we better like each other. Okay. So I want to make sure that, so we're supposed to take a break after 1.5 hours, but if you guys have something, emails to respond, feel free. It's an open interactive session, we just want to keep moving.
You want to take a break now?
We all want to go home. You guys are ready for a break or not? Or should we keep going? Sure.
Break.
Quick break? All right, no break.
Okay. We'll switch gears a little bit. Think of me as a commercial break. I'm just doing the Oracle technology enabler item insert into the session. But really, seriously, so the three of us, IQMS and Arisoft, the consultant, and us, we joined together, and we are providing the technology enablement. And while they built all the content and all the value that IQMS knows what you folks need based on their many years of offering the solutions to you guys, right? So they know what kind of data is running through the pipes. They know all the metrics and KPIs. So we were just a vehicle to make that possible. So we're working together to figure out the best, not figure out, to ensure that you're getting the best operational switches turned on, so you don't have to do all that work, which is what you're doing today, which is standing up your own server, your own warehouse, pulling away people from their core job function to do something else, which you should not be doing. You're better off doing what you're good at, which is on the manufacturing side, or running a company, right? So that's the whole idea, and offering it as a service in the cloud removes all the cost from not just dollars, but all the effort in getting people to build things for you, right? So that's the basic premise. So Oracle's BI Cloud Service is one cloud service in the broad ecosystem of many things that Oracle has. And essentially Oracle has a cloud platform running in many data centers around US and global. Just like if you're familiar with Amazon and Microsoft, very similar to what they do as well. So with BI Cloud Service, essentially the ability to load your data, and IQMS prepares the data for you, and that is the true magic sauce, the data mart, the unique structure of how the data should be represented, both at the table level, which is the data mart, as well as the semantic layer in the BI Cloud Service, which is IQMS's representation of how the data should be looked at the business layer, from which you can drag and drop and build out the reports. So that piece, those two items is the bulk of the work. It takes a few months to build that. That's what Arisoft, they did all that work, working with IQMS, with Rob. Anybody can spin up reports and dashboards. That's the easy part. That's the icing on the cake. That's just telling a story. But these two items is the true value that IQMS is giving you in this solution. Now you can take that data mart and have some other BI tool pointed at it. That's fine. I'm going to talk about that as well. So once the data is loaded, once the data preparation is done, so these two items are done by IQMS. So you get to see the story, and then you get to use your mobile device and access this application. You can either point it to a URL in your mobile, like in your browser in your device, or you can download an app, like a BI Cloud Service app, and just like how any other app, you configure it to always go to that place. So you just have to click it, see the information, that's it. It's the best way to, it's already been designed for mobility. There's nothing extra you need to do. I would highly recommend download the app to make that possible as well. So now, I'm going to walk you through this portion here, this BI Cloud Service. So just imagine the data mart is built, it's been set up for you. In this scenario, it's the fundamental, the vanilla scenario where you have one-to-one relationship, you have one data mart, one BI, and you're just given access to this BI offering, BI service. So what do you do next? So if you are like a normal consumer, you would get to, that what you just saw is the operational view. You never land up there. That's what IQMS would be controlling that. That's the back-end plumbing of the BI Cloud Service. But if you are a power user, this is where you would land up. If you are a normal consumer, you would land up at the page that Imtiaz showed. The landing page with all the analytics and the manufacturing reports, that's where you would land up. So you can choose how many users you want to set up as power users versus the normal consumers. Console is where, if you are a power user, you can set up a lot of these things, but typically IQMS would set this up, is what I envision, so you don't have to mess around with this stuff. But just to give you an idea of, just to answer that question that somebody had around roles and security, right? Yeah, the screen resolution is messed up. I don't know why. I'm trying to figure out how to put more stuff on the screen. It's not letting me do it. So if you see, so these are the different kinds of roles. Advanced content authors. The cloud service users are the lowest level. They're just consumers. And then I gotta fix this resolution. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah. So you have the cloud service users, you have the advanced content authors, and then you have the BI cloud administrators. So basically 3 fundamental types of roles. The power user would be someone, would be the kind of person who would get the cloud service administrator role to go in and make some changes. Now let's talk about what kind of changes would you want to do and would you like to do, right? So you basically, you're telling us, you're walking through a set of things. You start off by creating projects, and then to create dashboards and reports, you start off by doing analysis. You create analysis, which is essentially drag and drop of these objects from the business layer, and you creating your own story and creating what you call as an analysis. It's in one specific analysis to do one thing. It could be a collection of a bunch of speedometers, graphs, tables, whatever. It's telling you a story, and you save that as an analysis, and you keep. That's your work. That's your workbench. You're building stuff like that, and over time, so you have a few analysis, top products, styles, channels, for example. So these are things that I might have done in the past. So now these kind of analysis, I would save them and keep them as my bucket list, and I would create reports out of that. So I would publish them as reports, and that's the published version of what gets consumed. And this is sort of like your workbench. You keep building on these things. So this is half baked. It's not been completed. So that's how where you would start. And then modeler is where you get the full access as a power user. So when you open up your system and you sign up for the service, most likely you will see two. You'll see the IQMS model, and you'll see a sample app that comes with the product. It's just a sample with dummy data. Now this is the magic sauce that you got from IQMS. IQMS built this out for you because they understand what that data looks like. Now if you open that up, you get a collection of objects. These are not tables. Well, these are representations of tables, but in reality they are the business view of those tables. So you could create your own joins, create your additional formulas here. This is really you're touching the semantic layer here. You can create your own hierarchies and joins based on how you want to see the report. And then, so typically if you're not a power user, you would not get to see this, so consequently you would not be able to touch it or modify it. But if you were a power user, you could probably create a copy of this and set it aside so it does not get refreshed when IQMS sends out a new flavor of that.
Can you go into the data model? Does it give you a pictorial view with the joins?
I don't think so, not in this one.
That would be more on
But that would be part of
ODI
the-
side. ODI side.
But that will be included in the documentation. You will have a clear picture of all the dimensions and the mapping, how the data is flowing and getting manipulated before it lands up in the target. You'll get a full detailed documentation of the formulas used, applied on the data in flight, and you'll get documentation on the relational diagram of the structure. Because that's kind of, it's part of the IQMS IP, right? That's what they built for you. So and that's something you have to check with IQMS. Maybe they don't want to share that too much. Maybe you don't, I don't know, that's up to them to decide. I can't speak for them, but that's something, they don't want others to modify it maybe, right? It's something that they are providing as a solution. But you could add to it, or you could bring other sources. But let's talk to Rob about it. You know? But all that will be documented and shared, so you know exactly what formulas are getting calculated. Now, so typically, say for example, you want to ask that question, like how many employees, are there any employees working beyond 9 hours in a given week or month, right? If you want to just explore, if you want to do that kind of exercise, this is where you would start. This is an explorative type of tool. So I would choose a data source. I would typically have just 2, but in this case, you see 4. Let's take the sample app that I'm familiar with, because I don't know the IQMS data model. He's the content expert, I'm not me. So you would see something like that. You would create a new visual analyzer project. And you're basically dragging and dropping stuff. So, then you can change the visualization. You could look for some outliers. Now, again, I'm not a data analyst, so I may be just phoning around here. But if you are a true data analyst, you know exactly what story you're trying to tell you. So that's the idea. So I think so it automatically figures out which visualization should you use. Okay. So anyways, yeah, I don't know which attributes to pull in to get the right data. Okay.
Dimensions, I think you need to measure.
Okay. Right. So let me get back to that in a second. So that's visualizations, and then analysis would be something similar. You would start, you could either build on top of, this is your workbench, these are things you've built in the past, or you create a brand new analysis. And you use a data source. So this is where if you have IQMS modify the ODI data integration and bring in data from other places, other sources in your shop floor, you could probably have it stored as a separate data structure here that you can have access to, that does not get overwritten. And you could, during the semantics layer, as a power user, you can pull in those data because you've already set it up and run your reports. You can compare the Enterprise IQ data with something else, with HR, payroll, whatever else that sits outside of IQMS, and create your own story for analysis based on that. But that would involve modifying the ODI mapping to bring in that data. So that's again, you're going to ask IQMS to help with that. What we were discussing in the morning was identifying scenarios where you either have multi-site Enterprise IQ, where you bring in data, so that would require a modification to the ODI mapping, or if you're bringing other types of data into the mix and store it alongside. In this picture, have IQMS spin up another data piece here in the cloud that you could point your BI to. You could use that inside your BI application, inside the Oracle BI application. The other alternative is if you don't want to, if you want to set up your own data mart, you could take what IQMS has built this data structure, and use the ODI mapping to divert the traffic to your own database sitting on the shop floor, and have your BI tool process the data in that data warehouse. So the logic and the construction semantics you could leverage what IQMS has built, but the physical aspect of where you want it to be stored, you could decide that as well. So that way, if you don't want to use the BI cloud service, you can at least use what this is offering you, the ODI, just to shovel all the data over to a different place. So these are the different scenarios that we can figure out what you want. And the majority of the customers are okay with this initial setup, but we identified a few customers who need additional data or who need power user capability as well. So if I'm building a brand new analysis, I have the data source, I have a subject area, and I start creating some information. And then if I want to see how this looks like, you're basically building a report based on analysis, but the same analysis as your workbench, you can expose it any way you like. One of the ways you want to expose it is a report. So here you can change the layout of this report. You can change the visualization here. So let me see if I can do that. You can add the prompts, and then how do you, where is that button where you run the report analysis?
No, you just look at the results.
Yeah.
And then if you have any prompts, then the prompts will show up at the report.
Yeah, I think that's more of the visualization side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not an analyst, so there's a whole bunch of dimensions I can drag and drop and make changes, so I'm not going to do that.
See, the idea is to sort of, show you some of the capability. This tool is extremely powerful, extremely robust. It's a full platform to deploy your RBI. And there's a lot of exciting things that you guys can do with this. It's just more like playing around with it, getting yourself familiarizing with it. So.
So any questions so far? Any questions so far, sorry?
So, I don't think there is, I think we're a bit early. It's a good news and bad news. Good news is you can all go home. Bad news is that there's, running out of the content. We need some contribution. Glenn, would you be able to help us with some of these executive summaries and big KPIs that you guys use on a monthly basis?
Yeah, actually, they had our monthly meeting for that was today,
Yeah.
actually, and I'm looking at the presentation now, and there's probably 10 or 15 things in here that would be really nice to get out of the system automatically without having to manually do this.
Right. And would you be able to do the same thing if you have some at your place?
Yeah, I'm not totally sold or understanding completely the concept behind IQMS has to present everything to us as opposed to us being able to build some of these things on our own and sharing. I mean, I'm not opposed to that either. I mean, I'm just a little confused as to,
Yeah.
you want us to help you, but you haven't shown us the tool or what we might want to do with it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's one of the things that there's some takeaway item for us to go back and discuss internally with Rob in terms of, how flexible the solution that we want to present it to you, where you be able to sort of, work with what we deliver, and then maybe better that to being able to do the things that you want to do, which is.
Historically speaking,
Yeah.
we typically
Yeah.
veer off path of,
Yeah.
the core delivery component.
Yeah.
So, by all means, willing to share anything that gets designed and pushed to everyone, but a lot of times, things that we report on are user-defined specific criteria that, our groups want to see that may not be applicable.
Yeah, so you can do both. The idea is IQMS is giving you the basic foundation, a data model, a set of visualizations that you can start off.
Mhm.
But there's nothing stopping you from taking this model, IQMS model that you get, this is what you get,
Mhm.
and adding more reports, adding your own visualizations, or adding more attributes and dimensions to it and change it.
The sooner that you get us the tool, the faster we'll give you feedback, is the way that I would phrase this. Because this is the hottest topic that comes up in every high-level IT meeting we have in the company. Everybody wants data real time at their fingertips.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, even if it's not the financial, if the production is pretty well baked out,
Yeah.
let those of us that have been in here have access to a
Yeah.
sample to play
I
around
can-
with.
Can we demo this? Can we demo
Yeah.
this on our data?
Yeah, so we are.
That would be a huge thing.
Yeah, we're launching a beta program now where you can go in, we'll stand up a PR cloud service, and you'll stand up an ODR that will funnel up the data, your data. And then we're launching that very soon.
Yeah.
I'd start next week.
Do you want to sell the product? Because you're not going to sell the product if we're not going to test it.
Yeah, we'd have to get it in our hands
Yeah.
first.
No, I agree.
I mean, we could say this is great, but we could say whatever the hell we want, which is saying something. I mean,
It looks great.
yeah.
It looks really great.
That's good.
But the fundamental,
One example, I think, of a very, very simple example of even what they're saying too, is the example that she brought up about getting the payroll information. Well, in her example, she's not using payroll, she's not using time and attendance at all. We might have customers, and so she's importing this data that she wants to get out, and I think you're doing kind of a similar type thing. But we have customers that they're actually using time and attendance and payroll, and so we need to say, where do you want that data to come from? The data that you post through payroll, the data that's collected in time and attendance. Where we might have another customer that doesn't want it off of the time and attendance payroll information, but they want it off of the task clock, because I only want to see those hours that were attached to a job. So they all, like the whole room could say, yes, we want this same thing, but they all mean that they want like 5 different things. Because they get that information and they tweak that information and calculate that information 5 different ways.
Right. I mean, I can tell you one area for certain that people would love to see is the change in demand. We update daily because we get EDI from our customers.
Yeah.
And so the requirements to ship that day change. And so the production floor is constantly wanting to say, show me what the demand was yesterday versus what the demand is today, and see that change. And I'm using the forecast module to show that to them, but if I could use a tool like this that drilled down to that on their own, and they could go see all of that, because that's huge amounts of data.
and where is the forecast modules, where is that located, you know? Is that part of the IQMS?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we basically take a screenshot of demand, write it to the forecast table, and call it yesterday's demand. And I have 8 different forecasts that keep those captures. And then I have reports that reference them. So if that was in here, that would be phenomenal. And that table already exists. I just need something to crunch the numbers.
And I think what Shannon was referring to is, it sounds like the base data model would stay the same, but the source of where we're pulling those fields in from would change. And that's where if we can connect to an external data source and do our own simple mappings to dump the data into the right target table.
There would be another way of looking at it, that maybe we should come up with those templates for you guys, and then maybe provide you that sort of, village chat, where we provide you a solution and then say, okay, now can you map your data into those templates?
Right.
So out of the box, you could say time and attendance template. So you have the metadata, all the data structure is there. We just need to start feeding the data in, and then we can look at how we.
Right, and a lot of it would be
Yeah.
standard for
Yeah.
everybody, the stuff mapped for a lot of the production stuff. But for those other ones, it would let us pick where we're pulling the data
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot your name.
Tim,
Tim. So when you have the change in demand, you also react to it in terms of like,
potentially, yeah.
Yeah, so like removing work orders, okay.
Basically, we send alarms if demand changes by more than 5%.
Yeah. So that's another KPI, demand.
Demand.
So when you're running a demand as per yesterday versus today, if there's a shift in less than more than 5% indicator,
That's
and that would trigger, holding some work
Are
orders.
you a publicly traded company?
No.
Because there's certain things that publicly traded companies like that you have to report.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Say like my order value today, my book value was
Right.
X,
Yeah.
and tomorrow it went
Oh,
minus.
that's another thing they're
Yeah.
constantly beating me up about is, well, wait a minute, 4 weeks ago, you were telling us at the
Right.
end of October, we were gonna ship X amount,
So
and
for-
now October's come and gone, and we missed that number.
Yeah.
So for publicly traded companies, there's a bunch of that they have to report to the street. You have to
Okay.
report. That's what I was asking.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes sense, that is one of our biggest complaints too, is wait a minute, you didn't hit budget, well, you didn't hit budget because what didn't
Right.
come in or what didn't go
So
out?
if we can come up with a kind of like, business rule for this, we can just give like one indicator, demand percentage up or down, and then we put a percentage in it. And, all the rules that goes behind it, and then if you are going to see what the demand is, you can click on it, it goes down further, and then you look at the other side, what are the decisioning that you need to make now in terms of holding those work orders that are planned to be released and stuff like that, so. It's almost like you guys do it just in time, but like one day overlap.
Well, obviously you're trying not to.
Yeah.
From a planning perspective, which is why they, that's why they get so bent out of shape if all of a sudden they get a new work order that shows up with a must ship of yesterday and they're late,
Yeah,
and they don't understand why, when it wasn't in their reports or any of their tools yesterday telling them they had to make it.
Okay.
so they get penalized for something that they haven't even seen it come in. So-
Exactly, and so they're using it as a defense mechanism to go back to the customer and say, listen, your demands are impossible to meet.
That's very interesting. So part of this, like I was asking, saying, would be really nice if they can send us the executive summaries or KPIs that they use on a weekly, monthly basis.
So there were a few that some questions came up, like how do I find out that certain employees work 9 hours a day or 10 hours a day on certain days of the week? So I said those kinds of questions would be good candidates for the data visualization, so you can quickly explore and catch those outliers, and then to create reports accordingly. But there are some standard reports that some of them want, like things like show me demand from yesterday versus today, be able to drill down to into the forecast module.
So with that demand, would you want to capture that like on a historical basis? What do you want to keep those and say, what was my demand?
That's what we do. So basically, we capture active demand today and put it into a forecast.
Okay, perfect. So we capture it every day, and with a time dimension, you can look at it whichever.
That would be awesome. That's what's not bad.
That's extra.
And Rob, we have more requests for data dump, that they would like to see their data in manufacturing, so they can provide some feedback and maybe write checks to you.
So things like, the example is the time and payroll, right? Payroll information is not in IQMS. So they're asking if they're able to blend IQMS data with payroll data.
So we have both. We have customers using payroll and time and attendance, some of them not even using both. Yeah. So they want to bring back that data. So I was thinking about maybe having a provision of some sort of templates ready, the data structure ready for these guys, and then somehow we bring in these additional sources from ADP or Ceridian and feed
Well,
them
if
back.
you model in our payroll and add a few more buckets,
Yeah.
that should be
So that's more of an operational conversation as to, do you want IQMS to stand up another database to funnel in all that extra data? Or should we just connect to that other database from here temporarily and just run some data and then wipe it off? Load it
Yeah.
on?
You have choices.
So there are a couple of choices in doing that. And the other idea is to just take what IQMS has built here and instead of sending data to this cloud database, send it to your own data warehouse where you have already blended other piece of data. So, and then point your own BI tool. That's also an option. So there are a couple of different things, so you'd have to work it out.
I know some of the other BI platforms out there have the option that you can create a dashboard from an export from a Crystal report or from a SQL query directly. Is there any functionality in this for that at all?
Oh yeah, so you could pull it in, and that's you would need to be a power user to
Okay.
do that. You would do that at the semantic layer, the data model.
Okay.
The model layer that I showed you here. So here you would create a new model yourself. You create a new data source, just pull in the file.
Okay.
Or-
And we
or a
have
SQL query.
hundreds and hundreds of custom Crystal reports we've created that obviously moving them into this sort of a platform is the right choice to do this, but we don't want to have to reinvent the wheel and import and recreate all of these reports in yet another system.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to find out. I don't know about already created Crystal reports.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing the end result, you're not seeing how that data was created.
Well, no, but I mean, we have the report files, and in Crystal, you can export your whole report as basically a
Okay.
gigantic SQL query.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to get to. So if it can spit out an XML or a SQL query,
Yeah.
then, but let me check on that. There's a way to feed that into,
Very good.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we spent, I couldn't comprehend the amount of money we've spent on custom Crystal report creation.
Yeah.
That we can't lose that to go to another platform. We've got to be able to easily move as much of that as we possibly can into something like this.
And what kind of data is it? What kind of report? Is it manufacturing, financial?
Everything,
Everything.
everything,
Remember,
everything.
in Chicago Electric, Bob from Malmix, he was the president, who now works for us.
Yep.
He said they replace about 80% of the Crystal reports.
Well, that's fine, but we got to be able to do it easily.
Well, I understand. I'm just saying, it's not, you'll probably, there's still space for Crystal reports type of things,
Sure.
right? But you could technically replace a fair amount with something.
But if we've got reports we probably spent $100 on to get working right. We don't want to have to recreate that.
Which is why all the magic and the value of this is in the middle part, right?
Yeah.
Because all that's done, all the linking, all the
Yeah.
relationships, the formulas, the calculations, all that stuff is done in the middle part.
So was Bob involved in this?
Yeah. So that manufacturing quote was, came off most of the bottom. As in, based on the discussions we had last year, we talked about all the metrics in Florida and what the top metrics were OE and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
So we took all those and.
It's great that you've got the manufacturing scrap and all that piece in here for us, because we don't capture that at the true time of production. It's all inventory adjustments with scrap codes that are done manually, and so we need I have hundreds of reports that consolidate the two, so that you're reporting one of those two areas. So that alone, that's a great start, but we need to bring in all the.
That's what this is, it's a start.
Yeah.
I know, you guys were asking for more feedback.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So we could, if we wanted to, we could spend 6 more months before we release this and have 100 more here, and we still wouldn't forget them all,
No.
right? And again, like we've been talking about, you can easily visualize your own data for those one-offs or those,
Right.
what does this mean, what does that mean? That's the, the beauty of that, to be self-service. Yeah, so, in the bundled amount that we're going to come up with really soon, it's going to include the content, right? And the content's going to grow for the next several years, right? So you don't have to worry about that, and we'll take care of it, right? Including all that hard work that's in there. So what you see really looks nice, but the hard work is under the covers.
So there was someone talking about a multi-year transaction log was about 50 of about 30, 40 gigs of data. And I classify that as a small t-shirt size.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of folks in the morning who had multi-year transaction log in the transaction system, landing up about 60 to 80 gigs of data. So that's like sort of a medium t-shirt size.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone like the large size.
No. So again, we're not taking the entire transaction log.
It's
We're only
Tessie's
taking a
not here, are
subset.
they?
We're taking a subset of data and we're taking a subset of columns. So it's the
Yeah.
transaction log is a gazillion, billion, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's coming in here.
Yeah.
And then the refresh, it's just taking the new ones. It's not going from the beginning and refreshing the entire thing. It's just taking the new ones. Right, so the daily or with the cyclical refresh, or not refresh, the update is very small.
Are we able to set like different import intervals for different tables? Would that be an option?
You can define that in the mapping by table, but we would like to know what the scenario is, because the way
I
you
think
set it
it's
up now.
dangerous, depending on the connections between tables.
It depends on the dependencies.
Yeah.
If you need to,
Not
certain things need to be
Good
done.
idea.
So we have a sequence.
Unless it's a totally separate table where it's a very easy connection, just one area.
Yeah, if I'm talking
Like-
about just give me everything on TA labor every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that
You
should be,
you can actually stream to this.
okay.
Right? I don't know if you talked about that, but one of the cool things that this tool does, so we've got our data marks defined, you know, we bring them in at the denormalized summarize level, we can summarize them out. And as you drill down, the capabilities, so it's all in data mart, right, off the transaction, we drill down, we get to a certain point, the next drill down is actually the transaction database. So that's a way you can combine historical data with up to the second data. So that's a configuration thing, but the tool's capable of doing that. We don't have anything like that defined at this point, nor do we have anything that's streaming at this point. But those are things that we could do, and the tool does that. And that's all seamless to the user. As you're going down year, quarter, month, week, day, hour, now I'm going here. I'm going right to the IT.
Would we also be able to change the tables that we're importing, the tables and fields and columns?
That's a discussion that we are having with like how generic that we want to do this solution. I think this has been, keep coming up again and again from
Well,
the morning.
And I can probably answer better than me. But from my perspective, I just don't want, I want to make sure that what we deliver doesn't overrate what you do. I mean,
Sure.
Right.
That's all. I don't really.
I think we've learned
Yeah.
to a certain extent how to make sure that happens now.
Because
so.
we can deliver these fairly easily, right? The mappings can be rolled out and everybody gets them just like that, right? So that's, you know, how do
Yes.
you orchestrate that or?
Yeah, so it's like peeling the onion, right? If it's okay to get into the semantic layer and change the abstracted layer, the model, the way you want it, that's okay to do if you're a power user. But as you go down the stack and if you start changing the physical tables in the data mart that they built for you, special purpose built, then you're getting into a slippery slope where you're customizing a single solution, and then you go off in a different direction. So that's, it has got diminishing returns
We've
after a
never
while.
been able to do that. though.
Yeah.
I mean, something like this, if we're going to implement it, we're going to want to customize it. As soon as something like this is available, we're going to have requests coming from every single department for this, that, and the other thing.
Absolutely right, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so in that, for that model, you could use the same ODI mapping.
Yeah, you just say-
They've been begging for something like this. I mean,
That's the thing is,
we
if
get
you
people,
give us access to it and then we show it to somebody internally, like you said,
They're
it's
gonna-
going to
yeah.
blow up faster than we can get to you.
Right. Well, but the other thing to keep in mind is there's no way they can, it would be very hard for them to roll out
Everything,
updates
yeah.
to it when they don't know how it would impact everybody's individual data model.
Yeah, and the way to handle that is, going back to the other scenario, you use the same ODI mapping they provide, which is a data pipe, the flow, and run this data warehouse internally, not in the cloud, have it in your house, in-house, and funnel data to that. That's the base flavor of what they shipped out. And then you can add to it because it's sitting in your data warehouse, in your server. So it never overrides any new changes coming in. So you're kind of, it's a hybrid, right? You're using what they built, then you're enriching it, embellishing it.
It's one of those discussions that actually we will be having after this meeting. It's a great input. We want to go back to the, you know, have a huddle and see what kind of like carve-out solution that we can do. One is, we would like to have a control release. You would like to have a control release. But I agree with you, as soon as you're gonna get that, somebody's gonna start clicking, okay, everything will change. We can't even control our own people in the end.
Libby and I make changes to it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like, we finished some job, we said, okay, Rob, can you take a look at it? We go back in there, it's completely different. So we completely understand. It's just that how the challenge is like, how do you prioritize a solution and then maintain a release strategy? How do you control change management? How do you control general availability to the masses? So those are the things that, we'll have more discussion.
Well, I think some of that's gotta come down to how you price it and how you consume it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, we just have to sort out the logistics.
I mean, has there been any thought to having a standardized set of stuff that you guys would support, and then if the customer wanted to then create their own
Yeah.
data
That's a
set
good
as
question.
well,
Yeah.
that we could then create, manage, and handle it ourselves?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's probably, to us, is, that way you guys can then have, this is the suite of solutions that we're developing for the customers, and it's a standardized thing that you guys can work on, and then we could also import some of those tables into our own thing and
Right.
whatever we want to do with them.
We're gonna wrap up, after this, we're gonna get together and, interpret what was said today, this morning and this afternoon, and figure out, what we have to do.
There was a question about if they change the transaction log date from yesterday, like if they, what was that, change the date to today?
Yeah.
Would that reflect in the BI?
Well, the question was that they do a lot of backdating inventory postings, or inventory transaction, I should say. So the way that I responded to that, we are picking up the new transaction log ID.
Right.
So as soon as the new record comes into the transaction log, that's
It's
when
not,
we
it's
can.
not today's date, it's a new record.
It's a new record, exactly.
We had another question from one of our beta ones about they've got, a gazillion million records. In Transit, they want to archive out the bottom, 7 years ago worth or something. And if we refresh, if we imported all this in the data room, would that affect it? The answer is no, because they're not, it's not synchronized bi-directional. Right?
Yeah, it's one way.
It's a one-way. These 850 records were new. They're coming today, and I don't really care about the other 10,527,000. Right?
So, you're saying it's only going to pick up new records with a new ID. So, a table like TA labor gets, somebody tasks in, reports the time in. When they task out, it then updates the timeout on that table, but it's not a new record. Is that data going to then get pulled in?
I have to look at it.
Yes.
Covers, but that's.
So that's a
Because it's
different.
not a different ID, it's the same ID number.
No, exactly.
There's some flag that says that this has been changed or something.
Well, there could
What
be
the
a
way,
difference between the ID and the transaction tables versus the
Yeah.
records.
right, so
Yeah.
each of the dimension and flag will have a separate criteria for the
Okay.
load. So this is more like load strategy, how we want to bring that data in.
Yeah.
Transaction log is, it hits the transaction log, it's at that data. So for that, transaction log ID is the key to bring it in, because that's the best and most
Sure.
efficient way.
Yeah, that I completely understand.
But like, for example, customer orders, we need to be looking at update insert strategy instead of just insert, and the time clock ID, and all these tables. So we look at each set of data and then we define a strategy.
Right. That's a good example. Order
Yeah.
file changes every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So, there's ways that for every other one of those, we figure out what's the new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So change records are new records, actually.
Yeah, certain tables, stuff will change.
Show changes.
Our Oracle and the IQMS database is pretty good in stamping date time. I mean, if you have been using it, you would know that the moment you modify any record, it's got its own entry in there. IQMS itself has its own date time stamp everywhere, so it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Well, great input, Ken and Tim. Thank you so much. And Sean, I would like to have 2 pages of KPIs from you by the end of this break.
I'm on it. here you go, they're right here. What do you want to see?
Yeah, some for me.
No, it's, you know, because we right now, just the beginning, you know, this is just beginning the financial side of it. And, I mean, we have done all sorts of things, I mean, but which one is the one that our customers are doing, that's more important. And then, obviously, you have a different definition of scrap, different definition of OEE, everybody has different, so if we deliver you something, and then you say, I've got all the components that I need to calculate OEE, go figure it out, you get another report based on your own environment, so. The beauty here is that you have a platform. You know, keep going back to the word platform. It's a huge leap from where things are today. And it's not just sort of rolling out the solution, it's rolling out the complete platform. It's going to give you the environment where you can...
It's really like a service, it's like a utility bill.
Yeah.
It's a gas electric service, so you don't have to do anything, there's no server set up, nothing.
Yeah.
And you get access to modify and custom,
We
make some
just want you to
changes
just write a
as
check on
well.
a monthly basis, and we'll just be fine.
How about a blank check?
Yeah.
A blank check.
White check, yes.
Do you guys accept blanket POs?
Well, we accept any kind of, do you have Bitcoin? We'll accept it.
Bitcoin.